So the question is, why is commitment so hard? I can say that there's a couple pretty strong reasons. Should we do like a top 5? Maybe we do a top 5. Oh no. I'm going to talk about commitment to relationships, commitment to sticking it out in a job, commitment to trying a new hobby, picking up an interest, putting yourself out there in some way. It's committing to committing. Does that make sense? It's not committing to this like one ideal thing. It's going to be an all-encompassing for the most part. But the first one for me, the hardest part of committing for a lot of people is fear of the unknown. That's the number one or the first thing on the list is fear of the unknown. If I do this thing, how do I know it's going to be worth it? A lot of people in a lot of cases have to see other people do something first or start a trend or start a wave or whatever it is, and then they follow that person or they follow that trend. And if they see, okay, this person did this thing and it worked out for them, maybe I could do it too. In my opinion, this is one of the biggest deterrents of even trying a lot of things in life, because it's like, okay, well, if no one else does this and I have to be at the forefront of the discovery or of trying to find this or traveling through this uncharted terrain that we call life with this new thing that I want to try. If I fail this, then everyone's gonna laugh at me. I'm gonna be embarrassed. Everyone's going to judge me. Everyone's gonna say I'm so stupid for even trying this. I should be reverting back to wherever I was in the first place. So I'm not even going to try. The first thing with regards to the hardest part of committing is fear of the unknown. To get around that, I would say this is going to always for me is always going to fall back to confidence and saying whether this goes well or goes poorly. You should not necessarily be interested in the desired results. You should be interested in finding out what the results are, period. If I was going to compare this to Smash, I would even say that people are afraid, just for the example here, people are afraid of jumping off stage to edgeguard because what if I just fuck this up? What if I just completely fail this and now I just die and I get reversed? So instead, I'm going to not take the opportunity to easily edgeguard someone, and then they just get back on stage for free. And now, since you didn't take the opportunity where you could have failed or could not have failed, now you failed somewhere else because you were afraid of taking this particular opportunity. So for me, that's why I even say when I'm coaching people, if you don't know what's going to happen in a certain situation, that doesn't mean don't do it. It means do it and figure it out, or do it and find out. It's like, oh, if I do this is what happens. That wasn't worth doing because maybe you messed it up. So I'll either have to do it better next time, or I should not do this because it was not worth doing. And the risk was not even close to the reward. That's going to be number one. Number two, it's hard to commit. And this is going to be more so for relationships or job paths or whatever. Number two is going to be one of the hardest reasons or hardest things about committing is knowing that there's so many other options that could be the right option. So there's the fear of the unknown, but then there's also the overwhelming amount of options that you could potentially take to say that even if I do this thing and I do commit, how do I know I'm committing to the right thing when there's so many other things I could have done instead? You only have a limited amount of time on earth. You only have a limited amount of time in, let's say, your school years or your youth or whatever it might be, and you don't want to mess this up. This is something that also freezes people in place because they are in fact terrified. They're in fact terrified that if they happen to choose the wrong thing, it's a complete waste of time. It turns into massive regret. I can say from a perspective of business that when I chose to do what I'm doing with content creation or doing Smash or whatever, of course I could have done so many other things. I've talked about it in the past. I could have done fitness. I could have done music. I could have done just a YouTube channel on business itself, or a YouTube channel on how to start a YouTube channel. I could have done Smash, could have done Call of Duty, could have done all kinds of stuff. But for me, I just hard committed to Smash. That was it. It's like, yes, I could do music. Yes, I can do fitness. Yes, I can do all these other things. But if I 50% commit or half commit or whatever, then I'm going to fail this. And for me, I like to think of the example of you can't half throw a ball to somebody else. You're either holding the ball or you're releasing the ball. Once you've let go, that's that, right? Once you've thrown it in their direction, you can't change it or anything anymore. That's just GG's at that point. So for me, with regards to committing to picking a path, whether it's a particular school, a particular path in school, let's say you're picking a major that you want, or picking a job that you want to work out, even if it's a relationship or a girl or a guy that you like, you have to commit. You have to put in 100% effort and see what happens. If it ends up crashing and burning, or let's say you lose the job, and maybe you don't get the job because the interview didn't go well, or you go to school and you get the major or whatever, now it's not something that you thought it's going to work out the way you thought it was going to, or maybe you're in a relationship and it doesn't work out the way you thought it was going to work out. You don't want it to be the reason why things didn't work out is because you didn't try. I guess that would be another big part of it too. And this could segue into number three, if with regards to the hardest part about committing is you don't want to be exposed. Let's put it that way. The number three thing as far as the hardest part about committing is you don't want to be exposed for trying trying your absolute best and not being good enough. So I guess fear of failure would be number 3. This is something that this should be, if there was a top 5, making this number 1, or if there was to be one that is actually number 1, I would say this is probably actually it, where people don't want to be exposed to say, I've done everything I possibly can and I wasn't enough. I've done everything I possibly can and I ended up failing anyways. So this, like I said, it's embarrassing, or it's almost heartbreaking, where it's like, there's nothing else I could have done. I put 100% into this and I failed, or I didn't achieve what I tried to achieve, or I got shut down, or whatever it might be. I can still say too, this is another thing that has to go back to confidence. And I said this with regards to even coaching and stuff as well. You should always, if you're going to try and do something with some sort of intent, it doesn't matter what it is, put 100% into it, and your results are your results. To say that you might not get another shot in certain things in life, that might be the case, but you should never go into something saying, I'd rather just not do this at all, because that's how you stay stagnant. That's how you stay in your comfort zone, because that's where it feels safe, versus saying, I'm going to go out and try these things. But I will say this on the side of that as well. You should obviously try to prepare yourself as well as you possibly can first before venturing out and trying these things. I will also say along with that too, and something that happens with regards to musicians probably the most, is that when you have infinite control over something, you will basically put off putting it out forever. This hurts businesses, this hurts your ability to get into relationships, this hurts your ability to feel even confident, because it's like, I could always be a little bit better. I could always be in a little bit better shape. My song that I wrote could have a little bit better chords. It could have been played or sang a little bit better lyrics, whatever it might be. I could always be that tiny bit more perfect. And so because of that, I'm not going to put this thing out, or I'm not going to commit and try and just see what happens. I'm not going to test the field. But with regards to myself, even, I'll say that one of the ways that I've become as successful as I have with regards to fitness or music or business, with regards to content creation or anything, is I just put out whatever I could at the best of my ability at the time and said, this is all I got. This is my benchmark right here, right? This is my benchmark to say, at least I know I'm this good. So now I can look back at what I've done and reflect and compare and try again and then do better the next time. This is something that has to be put through or this is something that you have to practice in your entire life when you're even getting into relationships. If you have an argument or a disagreement, or even something's going, it could be just a discussion of any kind. If it doesn't go exactly as you wanted it to, it doesn't mean that your life is over or the relationship is over. In most cases, it's more so that, could I have reflected on this conversation, and maybe if something like this happens in the future, could I possibly try and say things better? Could I have handled the situation better? And I know this is like that right there is not necessarily the commitment part, but the commitment part to that is to say, and this I guess goes along with relationships, is if you're someone who is terrified of conflict, and you're afraid of confronting or committing to a discussion or a argument or not necessarily a fight, but some sort of conversation that has to be had, you will very often find yourself reverting and turtling and saying, I'm going to hide or suppress this argument or this conversation for as long as I possibly can, because I'm scared of the outcome of what could potentially happen if this doesn't go exactly how I want it to go. It's like, well, that's still not really a good thing for you to do either. You're way, way better off having the conversation and even saying to the person, hey, like, I don't really know what you want out of this. I'm not really sure where we even stand. Let's just say it's for a relationship thing. I'm not really sure where we even stand. So I want to hear what you have to say, and let's just try and work through this together, versus just try and, I don't know, overpower the other person or turn it into a fight, because that's the only way you can feel like you can defend yourself, is by getting fiery, honestly. And instead try to, I guess, commit to finding a solution, I should say. Yeah, you want to try and commit to finding a solution. Number 3 was the fear of failing by committing to something and realizing you're not good enough, or the level that you're at is not high enough to achieve what you want. I think number 4 and number 2 kind of go together. The number 4 reason why it's so hard to commit for people is they don't want to waste their time. I feel like even if someone thinks something is going to be worth it, it's the fact that maybe to them it might just take too long to do. And even if it's going to give them the results that they actually wanted, let's say it has to do with going to the gym. You know that going to the gym is good for you. You know that it makes you healthier. You know that it puts you in a good mental state. You know that it makes you in better shape. It's all the things that you want to do, but you don't want to commit, not even because it's too expensive, but because you think it's going to be a waste of time, because it's going to take forever. And if I can't do it 100% or whatever it might be, then I'm going to either fail my way out of it or not get results. And just, you could be spending your time doing other things that are better in your eyes. So that would be, in my opinion, number 4 is poor time management. If you can commit to something and also prioritize it, more often than not, I will not say you're always going to be super successful in whatever you're doing, but if you fully commit to it and say, okay, 1 hour a day, I'm going to do this thing, or 2 hours a day, I'm going to do this thing, or maybe it has to be more so that you're going to cut out certain things because, long term, over that long period of time, you will see the results and it was worth doing. And I think with that, I think number 5, I was thinking about this too. I didn't want to steer this in the direction of just relationship stuff, but this one being number 5 or number 1, I guess, the fear of having a repeat situation happen to you, or the fear of getting backstabbed, or being jaded and being like, what's the point of trying to do this all over again? So I guess the fear of letdown, the number 5 reason people find that it's incredibly hard to commit to things, is because of the feeling of a letdown, where you do put all your effort in and you do spend all this time, you do all these things to, let's say, try and make somebody happy, and then even though you did everything right, that person just walks out of your life, and then it feels like, this is why I didn't want to do this. Like, I did all this hard work, I put all this effort in, made all these sacrifices, and there was no point, allegedly, or I guess at this point, there was no point in doing this, because even though I did everything right, it still didn't work. And so what happens is, in the future, when you have future relationships, you become very jaded or more reserved to say, in the next relationship, I'm not going to commit 100% because I already know what's going to happen, most likely. And then you start to erode. Yes, you start to erode your level of commitment from one person to the next, to the point of where you say for yourself, you know what? I don't even want to be in a relationship anymore because there's no point even trying, because every time it just falls apart. And I can say for myself, I guess to be slightly personal, whenever I have been in a relationship, I've always put 100%, because for me, I have no problem with being hurt, if that makes sense. Because if I get hurt, if I know that I put 100% in, if I end up getting hurt, it wasn't because of me. So if that's what happens, then that's what happens. And I've always thought into the future too, where it's like, if I was to meet somebody else in the future, I would never want to be like, well, I've been hurt this many times, so therefore they get 20% of my full effort because fuck them based on other people. That makes no sense. But a lot of people also do live their life that way, where it's like, I've been hurt this many times, or I've been backstabbed this many times, or I've been cheated on, or I've been all these things so many times that this next person's guaranteed to be the same, because my past experience have all been like this so far. So what's the point of trying? But I can say, like, I guess I don't even know if I call this a high note or a higher note. If you're ever going to be in a relationship in the future, if you're ever planning to get married or anything like that, you should always put 100% in. Not so that you can blame the other person and be like, you're the reason why this didn't work, but more so that to say that I've done all I can do, and if it didn't work, then it was the wrong person, unfortunately. It might have been time wasted. Also, that's also getting experience in life. Time wasted is experience, more often than not. I'm not saying you have to waste your time to get experience, but to think that you wasted your time and you got nothing out of it is just a lie. Because there's some things that you could have done better, or you could have treated people better, or you could have chose better in the first place and based, let's say, your future relationship on values versus looks. And you could have set yourself up for the future in a much more concrete manner, versus just saying, well, I'll just kind of do whatever because it's going to go straight to hell anyways. In my opinion, you should most definitely always be trying your absolute best. I'll say that's what I've even done with the YouTube channel. I know this is not a relationship thing, but even with the channel itself, basically there has not been a single day that has gone by where I have not worked on the channel in some way. I've put 120%, if that's even possible, commitment into the YouTube channel, whether it's videos every single day, coaching every single day, streaming every single day, working on thumbnails, having meetings with Metafy, having meetings with Zepic, coming up with different ideas for content, being a part of the Discord, being part of the apprentice chat, everything, 100%. So whether or not it's always felt like 100% for some people or not, it's still 100% of me trying to do those things. And I can say even to this day, with the channel going as far down as it has gone, I've still put 100% in, versus being like, there's no point in this. I'm just gonna walk away from the channel because it's not working. I'm blaming the channel. It's like, no, I never blame the channel for not working. I blame myself. I'll say the stuff that I'm putting out, the audience doesn't care about at the time. So I have to change. I'm not going to force my audience to be like, hey, I've done this for you, so now you have to like this new thing. It's like, no, like I said, if 10,000 subs leave because I leave, then it kind of is what it is. I've committed to making the channel a success. I've committed to making this my life's work at this point, which sounds kind of crazy, but it's the truth. And I have zero interest in ever stopping or giving up. And that's how you have to treat a lot of things in life, especially with relationships, or especially your job, or being a parent, or your family, or anything at all. You should never think to yourself, well, my kid is a disaster, therefore fuck them. Or my wife doesn't love me because to her I'm not trying hard enough, so therefore fuck her. It's like, no, like, well, if she doesn't like, or not like you, but she's like, let's say, falling out of love with you, or whatever it might be, or your parent or your kids are not respecting you, or your job is not going well, or whatever, it's like, doesn't mean you should stop trying. If you have to pivot some things in life, I'll say more so the job than the family stuff, but if you have to pivot some things in life, then you can try to pivot them to salvage your own sanity or your mental health, whatever it might be. But that doesn't mean I'm going to just stop trying. I'm going to stop working. I'm going to stop trying to progress in life, because it's easier, even if it feels like it might be a waste of time at the time. Even for myself, I will say with regards to the channel, I've committed to every single day just having my channel basically just go down. I'm looking forward to it almost when I see, oh, I've lost 18 subs today, or I've lost 30 subs today, or in the last week I've lost like 240 subs. I don't want that to happen, but I've committed to the change, and I've committed to the trials and tribulations that go along with the change of the channel. And for me, it's like this is just part of it, right? It's growing pains. It's committing to it versus saying, oh my god, I'm scared, and now going back and being like, all right, I'm gonna bring back all the Smash stuff that I don't actually want to do because I'm scared of losing a couple subs. That's definitely the last one. I know, like I said, the reason why I went personal with the last one is because I could. It's just an easy way to pull an experience that makes sense for me, it makes sense for the video, it makes sense for you guys as well too. So I don't even remember the order of the 5 that I said, but even with that last one, number 5, it really realistically is the most important one. It really is. The fear of becoming jaded or thinking, what's the point of this? You should always be committing past those things, and you should be committing with the end in mind. What is the point of starting the journey in the first place? Why are you trying to venture out and do the thing that you're doing in the first place? You can't look at the peaks and valleys all the way through your journey. The destination is what's important. The journey is what you have to endure. You have to go through that journey. It's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows all the way through. It's not always going to be a nightmare or disastrous the entire time either. So if you can recognize that, although sometimes you're going to have some really good days and some really terrible days, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter, but it kind of doesn't matter because you didn't commit to saying, I'm only going to do this if it's amazing. I'm only going to do this if no one leaves like a mean comment on my channel or something like that. I'm going to commit to trying to get to the end. So whatever that looks like, then that's what it looks like. And that's what most people have to be doing out here. Or that's what most people should be striving to do, or trying to get to that mentality eventually. Ultimately, that is, I guess you could call it my top 5. The reason why I want to talk about this today is because this is something I'm seeing a lot of people struggle with, even within my own sphere of content creation, where they are scared of making these pivots. They're like, if I switch this up, I don't know if I can commit to the pain that's going to happen during this time. I don't know if I can commit to seeing my YouTube channel basically plummet in real time for the sake of a greater good. So instead, I might revert back and, I guess, to put it simply, just be scared or be frightened of that change. I've said this in the past too. It's like eventually the pain of staying the same is going to outweigh the pain of changing. I've known this for a very long time, and for myself, if I've ever felt like I have to change or a change has to be made, I don't really even care about myself at that point. As far as like, not to say if I get hurt, then who cares, but more so like, I know why I'm changing. There's a reason for this. So I'm not going to let a couple comments or a couple subs or whatever leaving the channel be the disaster that would stop me from wanting to level up the entire YouTube channel, because I know there's much more out there. Is there a term for that? Like what I'm talking about? I guess technically the word that you'd be looking for is resilience or perseverance. That's what you're looking for as far as my mentality towards the change of the channel. Having absolute perseverance in the face of anything going right or wrong. Because I will say this, for as many subs that have potentially left or have already left the channel, I've also had way more people reaching out to me as far as leaving comments on the YouTube channel, messaging me on Discord, saying how much they love the new content. And that's the thing, is like, I have to take the higher highs with the lower lows, because if I just focus on all the people that were leaving the channel and said all these new people that are coming in, or the people that enjoy this new content, that doesn't have as much of an effect or it's not as important or whatever. It's like, I can be happy about this, I can be sad about this, or I can push both to the side and say what is important is the end goal. If the end goal is to have a flourishing YouTube channel with a potentially same audience, different audience, a mixed audience of some sort that likes the new stuff, if that's the goal, then that's the goal. Right now, it's only been about a week, maybe a week and a half. So a week and a half as of right now. When this actually comes out, I'm not sure when that'll be. Probably closer to 2 weeks. Realistically, for there to be a true turnover on the channel, it has to be at least a month. Minimum. So if I post this stuff for a month and I steady lose subs for a month, that's just part of the growing pain. It is what it is at that point. And I'm not worried about it, because like I said, I'm going into it knowing what's about to happen or what is happening. So there's nothing to really be scared of. So yeah, what you're looking for as far as the definition is having perseverance and committing to the goal or committing to the journey, regardless of the hurdles or peaks and valleys or anything that happens. That's the way I'd put it. That's what you have to do, I should say. That's the one that kind of trumps all 5 of the reasons to be scared of committing.